Shenandoah National Park, Skyline Drive, and the Blue Ridge Parkway are a bigger presence around here than some may realize. There's history, nature, and money linked to Virginia's mountain views. As Kate Nectarline shows us, they're also an intrinsic part of America's 250th anniversary.
The Blue Ridge Parkway is really a reflection of America.
Winding roads, vast outlooks, changing leaves, and living history. Just a few of the things that make the Blue Ridge Parkway and Skyline Drive what they are to Virginians and beyond. Kevin Brandt is with the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation.
It is a picture of incredible scenery. It is also a picture of incredible resilience.
People have been living in the Blue Ridge for thousands of years, from indigenous Americans to European settlers. The idea for Skyline Drive came out of the 1920s in the Blue Ridge Parkway during the next decade, the Great Depression.
The folks who came up with this idea of this rural parkway was really an economic stimulus for Appalachia. What's happened over these years is really phenomenal.
In order to carve out hundreds of miles of roads, though, the National Park Service says at least 500 families were displaced from their homes.
We owe a debt of gratitude to those folks who gave up family land that had been in their family for generations.
Nearly 100 years later, millions flock to Shenandoah National Park and the Blue Ridge Parkway as autumn arrives and leaves turn from green to red. Rita McClenny is the CEO of the Virginia Tourism Corporation.
It's a bucket lister. It is one of the major attractions for Virginia, and people come from all over the world to drive the parkway.
All over the world, including places more than 8,000 miles away.
Honestly, it has been so beautiful.
Laura McDonald traveled from New Zealand for this view.
But we had a few sunny days where we could see the beautiful views, and I see why they call it the Blue Ridge Mountains, because it literally looks blue.
For the communities that surround them, these parks mean more than just the views. The foundation says that the parkway helps support about 19,000 jobs and brings in nearly $2 billion each year.
The real stories are told in the gateway communities.
One of those stories is the Rockfish Gap Country Store on Route 250 in Afton.
It's just a unique thing out in the middle of nowhere, and they're ready to get out of the car and stretch their legs, look around. Always surprised when they come in the door to see what's actually in here.
Owner Carrie Gates says the country store has been attracting visitors since the 1960s.
A surprisingly large amount of people make this a stop when they go through, whether it's annually or monthly or whatever. So you get to know a broad range of people from all over.
Just a few minutes down the road in Afton is Blue Mountain Brewery.
You got a lot of travelers coming in from out of town, and definitely brings a lot of business to local businesses as well.
Josh Sprouse is general manager. He says in October, the brewery sees about 5,000 visitors per week.
As the leaf peepers, as we call them, come out, they'll get busier and busier.
Each year brings its own challenges. In 2024, Hurricane Helene ripped through the Blue Ridge and wreaked havoc on the parkway, surrounding communities and businesses. Parts of North Carolina and Southwest Virginia are still recovering from the damage.
Scars will always be there.
The parkway, still on its road to recovery, remains a staple for families across the world. For McDonald, it's a spot she'd make another trip around the world to come back to.
100%. Next time we're back, I would love to drive it all the way to North Carolina.
As America approaches its 250th birthday, Brandt says we can learn from the Blue Ridge Parkway and Skyline Drive, its history, its geography, and its people.
The challenge of building the parkway and imagining that you could design a landscape in that kind of terrain really reflects on the better qualities that we have here in this country. Those are the qualities that are going to carry us forward.
Kate Nectarline, 29 News.
29 News is honoring the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence by honoring the places in our viewing area that make up the fabric of this community and our country. So tonight we take you to Scottsville, the original seat of Albemarle County, and a community deeply dedicated to maintaining its Old Dominion charm. Avery Davis has the story.
Scottsville is emblematic of a small, tight-knit community. It's important to Virginia that we still have that, preserving both those historic places, but also those communities is really important.
Today, just 520 people call Scottsville home. But in its heyday, A couple hundred years ago, it was the epicenter of life in Albemarle County.
Because of the river, we were the central place to bring your flour to get milled. We were the place to come and get rest if you were riding on the river. All of that happened in Scottsville.
Laura Malusi is the president of the Scottsville Museum. That river is the James.
The river was your major transportation highway.
Ferries were the cars.
Ferry landings became central hubs. So there were multiple ferries in the Scottsville area.
Olivia Brown is the Charlottesville-Albemarle Historical Society's executive director. She's passionate about keeping the history of these ferries alive, even after they stopped running.
Scott's Landing Ferry, as it was called, becomes what is now kind of the downtown Scottsville area. One of the other main ferries, later known as Hatton Ferry. For that, a number of the historic ferries were the way people got around.
The James has always been the giver and taker of life in Scottsville. On one hand, it made the town people know and love today. It also floods a lot, making growth almost impossible.
Scottsville, because it's on the river, would get hit flood after flood after flood, and it became really difficult to keep up and keep rebuilding.
Scottsville built a levee in the 1990s. It was a game changer, Malusi says, but no silver bullet.
I mean, we're still hit by floods. The river is the best asset that we have. It's why we're all there. But it's also, when those occurrences happen, it's what keeps us a community.
That levee is now decades old. Albemarle County gives some money to Scottsville for its maintenance.
Frankly, it's not enough.
Mike Pruitt is the Albemarle supervisor representing Scottsville.
They're coming up on some major upgrades that they need for the facility to stay functional. I think that's a very sensible thing for the county to provide assistance for.
Pruitt tries to let Scottsville's town council make its own decision. But he's worried about more than just the levees.
I'm not sure that Scottsville can sustain that kind of lightning in a bottle it's got now.
The future of Scottsville, he says, will be about how to keep its charm, its tradition, its current size, against all odds.
There is only so much one town can do in the face of really strong national headwinds. Every day we've got more and more factors that try and make it harder for these kind of small-scale communities to live and thrive.
Long before fast food or takeout, women in a central Virginia town were serving something much bigger than a meal. As part of our We the People series celebrating America's 250th anniversary, Jeanette Hastings shows us how their story helped shape Gordonsville and the spirit of enterprise that defines the nation.
In the years following the Civil War, a group of black women in Gordonsville turned fried chicken into a possibility. Using skill, determination, and courage, they built something extraordinary at a time where few opportunities existed.
They weren't just entrepreneurs, they were building a future.
The story began in the years after the Civil War, when trains stopped in Gordonsville to switch lines between Richmond and Washington. On the platform, black women from the town's Browntown community saw an opportunity. They met the trains with trays of fried chicken, coffee, and pies, sold through open windows to passengers who quickly spread the word about the meal worth waiting for. Right next to that train platform stood the Exchange Hotel, once a Civil War hospital, and now a symbol of how this town's history of struggle gave rise to a new story of resilience and enterprise.
It was a great opportunity for these newly freed women to actually have an impact on the local economy and help provide for their families in a way that they frankly weren't able to do before.
In an era when black women had few options to earn a living, these entrepreneurs built something powerful. They created a business model that combined resourcefulness and pride, turning a simple meal into a source of freedom. Travelers began calling Gordonsville the fried chicken capital of the world. Today, that legacy lives on through the town's annual Fried Chicken Festival, a celebration rooted in the very tradition these women started more than a century ago.
But in this instance, the women who did this, they were entrepreneurs. They were taking a risk. It was something that would have been unheard of.
By the late 1800s, the town required a license tax for anyone selling food along the platform, a sign of just how successful the women had become. But as dining cars and sealed train windows arrived, the era of window-side meals faded away. Still, their legacy remained, carried forward by their descendants, including Denise Thompson, owner of Cooper's Cooking and Catering in Orange County, whose grandmother was one of Gordonsville's fried chicken ladies.
We've been in business for 5 years. We started over on Bird Street, just a little 12 only hold 12 people. I wanted this restaurant to be a place where anybody could come regardless of the color of your skin, your political background. It doesn't matter.
Thompson says that inspiration came from her mother, who encouraged her to carry on the family's culinary tradition, even though she passed away before seeing the restaurant open its doors.
If you've been to Gordonsville, and you would know Mildred Cooper. I try to take everything that she's instilled in me. We have all of her recipes here. If you tried any of our food, everything we do is recipe-based, passed down from my mom and her aunts. So the love is here, and I feel her every day.
And now that legacy is growing.
In about a month, we'll be moving on down the street to hold 150 people. So we've been really, truly, truly blessed.
And the more we can share these stories, the more we can preserve them now, the more knowledge we're going to have going forward. And I think it's really, really important to celebrate stories like these because they're positive.
It's absolutely an example of people taking some of the worst circumstances that you can ever be dealt in life and rising above and overcoming it to make a difference for themselves and their families.
Today, a historical marker stands near the old depot, honoring the women who turned courage into commerce and made Gordonsville's name known far beyond the rails. The women who stood on this platform changed more than a menu, they changed what was possible. In Gordonsville, Jeanette Hastings, 29 News.
As America prepares to celebrate its 250th birthday, we continue our series on historic sites across Virginia that help tell the full story of our nation's past.
29 News' Jacob Phillips takes us to Montpelier, the home of President James Madison, where recent work is still uncovering untold chapters of American history.
If we truly want to look at the birthplace of the United States Constitution, it's not in Philadelphia, it's on the second floor of this home.
James Madison's Montpelier is best known as the home of the father of the Constitution. But Kyle Stetz, Montpelier's Director of Interpretation and Visitor Engagement, says there's far more to the story.
We are able to tell a story about American history like no other site, I think, in Virginia, because not only do you have his grandparents coming out here in the 1730s. We have the period of the Revolution. We have Madison's work on the Constitution here. But then in the post-Madison era, obviously the Civil War comes through Central Virginia.
More than 300 enslaved men, women, and children once lived on this land. Through archaeology and research, their stories are being brought to light every single day, from the tools they used to the structures they built.
A nail isn't always just a nail. It's like nails are what metal detectorists that work with us call Montpelier gold. There is what allows us to figure out where these buildings are, and then the date of the buildings, and then bringing everything else into perspective, we can start to reconstruct what the landscape looked like.
With each pass of the metal detector and every artifact pulled from the soil, a new piece of history is uncovered.
For example, out here where we're standing right here, literally under our feet, Dennis also found nails here, but he was finding horseshoe nails. He was finding clipped iron. He was finding slag along with all these other items that indicated it wasn't a home, but it was a blacksmith shop.
The blacksmith site, buried for generations, may hold key insights into the lives of the enslaved people who lived and worked here. Individuals who helped build the foundation of Montpelier.
In many ways, this blacksmith shop is really, it's the reason why we have the Constitution. It provided the wealth that allowed Madison to pursue everything that he was able to achieve, shortly after the American Revolution.
And it's discoveries like this that make Montpelier one of the most historic sites across the Commonwealth, even after 250 years. Jacob Phillips, 29 News.